Good afternoon. I see that many of you are standing, but there are actually a few empty seats. Not very many, but if there's an empty seat near you that's available, could you raise your hand, point to some empty seat? Well, so much for that. Okay. There were empty seats. Good afternoon. I am Howard Reed. I am the chair of the College Senate. It is a pleasure to have this opportunity to introduce Buffalo State College's president, Dr. Aaron Podolefsky. In less than 3 years, he has gone from being our new head administrator with an office on the top floor of Grover Cleveland to being recognized as a vibrant leader of this diverse community. He has embraced this campus's vision and values, yet has brought an original can-do perspective. His openness and upbeat attitude are universally appreciated. Obviously, due to the recession, the past few years have been particularly challenging for the state of New York and for this college. However, as Dr. Podolefsky has made clear, this is also a time of great achievement and opportunity at Buffalo State. Will you please join me in welcoming Dr. Podolefsky, who will deliver his third State of the College address.
Thank you, Howard. And I do see that there's folks in the doorways. There are room to stand along the side here if you want to come up and get a better view, so you don't have to pile up down back in the entranceways. Thank you, Howard. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, faculty, staff, and students. I'm delighted to see so many of you here. In fact, I'm overwhelmed. We thought, well, we'll do it in Rockwell Hall, but we might look like we're empty. And then we thought, well, we'll do it over here. We should have 100 people. And here you are. They're all the way out into the hall. My apologies, but I'm so glad to see you. Thank you for coming. Now, some of you will recall that during my inaugural address, I said that Ronnie and I see life as a series of adventures. And while it's not quite like heading off into the New Guinea Highlands, the start of a school year is an adventure to me. And it looks to me like 2012-13 academic year promises to be exceptionally enriching and fulfilling. There are challenges, but there are also ample opportunities in the air. With the fall semester just going underway, it's time for me to share with you some of my thoughts about the current status and the future of our Buffalo State. First, I'd like to take a few moments to introduce a few people. To begin with, I'd like to acknowledge my wife, Ronnie Podolefsky. And I don't know if he's here. The mayor was intending to be here. He may be in the line out in the lobby, but if he is, I want to acknowledge the mayor. Now, I want to tell you, it took me 15 minutes to figure out who to introduce first. Did I make the right decision? Well, thank you. Is that Mayor Brown? No, okay. Well, I can't see. As somebody who's going like that, I thought maybe he's there. The mayor is a Buffalo State alum, and he's always a great supporter, so I always take a special moment to acknowledge the mayor. Also with us today, College Counsel, someplace back there, is Howard Zemsky. Thank you, Howard. We have up front Linda Dobmeyer on the College Counsel, and Jim Brandis. Also, our student representative, Mohammed Simbundu. So 3 cheers for all those folks. Would you give them a round of applause? I'd like to also introduce a few new members of the President's Cabinet. For Vice President for Finance and Management, we have Michael Levine. Mike, were you here? Would you stand up? Now, Mike didn't have to pack a moving truck because he's spent the last 28 years at University of Buffalo. So we're glad to have Mike. He's already proven it invaluable. Chief Diversity Officer Karen Clinton Jones. Karen, would you stand up? Karen is joined us from Virginia Tech, but she's a Buffalo State alum, and her daughter just graduated last year from Buffalo State. So, also, we have President's Assistant for Communications, Paula Witherell. Paula's here, right there. We stole Paula from Hilbert College, but she's also a Buffalo State alum, and we're pleased to have her back. There's a couple of presidents in the region out gunning for me. Please, campus security, look out for me, will you? We're stealing their best. I also want to welcome back Wendy Patterson, our new Dean of the School of Education. Well, obviously you know Wendy. She was off at St. John Fisher College as Dean of Education for a while, and I want to welcome home Wendy. I also want to welcome back Anthony Bannon, who is leading up the Burchfield Penney here. Tony was previously director of the Burchfield. Tony was here between 1985 and 96 before going off to the George Eastman House International Museum for Photography and Film. And he really gets the vision for Buffalo State, and he's going to help us make the Burchfield a compelling part of that vision and increase the synergy between the college, the Burchfield, and the community. So welcome back once again, Tony. Additionally, we have 42 new full-time faculty and staff. So if you're here, would you stand up and be recognized? Well, that's great. 39 of them are back preparing for class. That's a good thing. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize a couple of special faculty. This is the 50th year for Professor E.O. Smith. So I think we should offer Professor Smith a round of applause. And this is the 58th, sorry to one-up you, E.O., but this is the 58th year for Professor Gerhard Falk. Would Gerhard stand up? These two gentlemen have seen a bit of change. I think in 1962, 50 years ago, that's about when E.O. came here. If I remember my history, I'm sorry, I'm off the notes, so don't... me and Bill Clinton, you know. If I'm not recalling, we had 3 names within about a 3-year period around 1962, including State College of Education at Buffalo and others. And I think it was in 62 going into 63 that we were first authorized to offer liberal arts degrees. Is that right? And we started off with 12. So 50 years ago, we first began to offer 12 liberal arts degrees at Buffalo State. Now, I bet you these gentlemen have seen some change. Maybe we'll sit them down and have them tell us about it sometime. I think E.O.'s helped me out. Were you giving me some hints there? I can use all the help I can get, E.O. Thank you. This is Buffalo State's 141st academic year. And I think it's one full of promise and teeming with opportunities. So as we gather here today at this pivotal moment in our institution's history, we are going to talk about how we have navigated some of the worst economic downturns since the Great Depression. The states have been hard hit in this economy, And the challenge to public education has been unprecedented. When I became president of this institution 2 years ago, we were facing significant budget deficits, and I'm proud to say that together we've stepped up to the challenges. We've reduced some expenditures, and we've also increased our revenues through entrepreneurial efforts in summer school, in the January term, and in other ways like that. So give yourself a round of applause for doing all that. Last year, we set a long-term strategy to develop an all-funds budgeting approach. And I'm confident within that framework, we can look forward to a prosperous future. Our institution is strong, stable, and successful. At the same time, SUNY is developing a new budget model for the allocation of the state tax dollars, and it's uncertain at this point exactly what effect this will have on Buffalo State. We'll keep you informed of the status as it progresses, but despite these challenging times, I'm confident that we're going to go forward with the continuing improvement of this institution, and I'm confident that our budget is sufficiently stable to have us go forward and meet the new demands. We've worked hard, we've been creative, and most importantly, we've worked together. Now, to illustrate this point about our continuing success despite these difficult budget challenges, I want to just lay out some of the things we've accomplished in the last couple of years. Now, for the second consecutive year, we've been listed by the Chronicle of Higher Education as a great college to work for, placing us among only 103 institutions across the U.S. And I think I couldn't be prouder of anything else than being thought of as having excellence in shared governance. What do you say to that? And Buffalo State has been recognized for the second year in a row as a military-friendly school by GI Jobs magazine, which is one of the top-rated publications. And I'm very proud of that. Now, we've looked into the future by adding a number of new academic programs. We've added a master's in public administration, a master's in museum studies, a master's in science education, a bachelor's degree in family and consumer sciences. And we've added minors in digital music production, intelligence analysis, ethics, and fashion design. Along with that, we have pending majors in international relations, in mathematical physics, and master's programs in Great Lakes ecosystem science, music, and engineering technology, and those are sitting in the pipeline. And I know one of them has been at the Board of Regents for a year. So much for being agile. We undertook a major review of our intellectual foundations programs. Now, general education is at the heart of any university, and I believe the results of our revision will maintain quality while giving students more choice, making it easier for students to graduate and to transfer to Buffalo State. And I want to thank the Senate and the committee, SciFoc and the others that worked on this, and the hard work of Howard Reed in moving this very difficult change through the Senate. Thank you, Howard. We've also made changes and advances in Buffalo State's long-standing commitment to our surrounding Buffalo State communities and our surrounding Western New York communities, a commitment that's ingrained in the culture of Buffalo State. And among these, we've opened a community academic center, which was, as you may know, is located on Grant Street. We've made exceptional efforts in our K-12 education programs. We've worked hard to support Buffalo's Say Yes to Education initiative. I was on the guiding board, I can't remember the name, and I'm now on the governance board of Say Yes to Education. And I think it's important to make sure we say that Buffalo State is going to accept all Say Yes to Education students who are qualified to attend Buffalo State. And we've doubled down on our efforts in the community by designating this the Year of the City, followed up on our very successful Year of the Arts last year. To build a future success at Buffalo State, we've taken bold steps to enhance our campus in ways that position us to improve the quality of the educational experience we provide our students, while also enhancing the overall experience they have through the collegiate environment and facilities. Every time I walk across campus, if I can, I see the results of these improvements. We're in the midst of a number of capital projects that, when completed, will have given us $350 million of new buildings and improvements to our campus. I just want to name a few so you remember them. The new science and mathematics complex is going to create world-class teaching and research facilities for math, biology, chemistry, earth science, and science education, physics, and the Great Lakes Center. And with Phase 1 beginning to open for classes this coming spring, we are on our way to a world-class science facility. A new technology building is rising up I guess it's north of the power plant. That will house 7 technology-based programs, smart classrooms, and labs. There are renovations to the 3rd floor of Rockwell Hall, a new recital hall, and if you haven't been up there, it's fabulous. And new spaces for the art conservation, recording studios, and other amenities. And those are about ready to be opened, I believe. I know there's some performances scheduled in the new recital hall that are very impressive for this coming fall. Keep watching for them. Campbell Student Union rehabilitations and renovations will complement the renovations of the quad, and I'm hoping that will be open fairly soon so we can walk through that easily. The opening of a 500-bed apartment-style dorm on the west side of campus and another residence hall under construction is just another example. The replacement of 100-year-old facilities under Rockwell Quad is going forward. That is something we don't see, but trust me, we'll appreciate it. Houston Gym is going to see renovations, and the rehab on Tower 4 is beginning. We've also renovated Buckham Campus School, which name we're going to change, we believe, to Buckham Hall. And that will be used as swing space, so all the other changes going forward will be facilitated, and they can be done less expensively and more quickly. And those new include Caudell Hall and Upton Hall. And we also have a new signage project, which some of you have seen, and we'll be talking about more as we go on, including new entrance signage for the entrances to campus, and I'm hoping we'll have that going up next summer. This is really unprecedented growth, and it's creating an exceptional learning environment for our students, and these have been just a few highlights of those good quality works that we know go on every day in our classrooms, in our advising, in our student services. It's the great work of our dedicated faculty and staff. Now, as a comprehensive, forward-thinking institution, we have an incredible opportunity to foster the academic potential of each and every student that comes to Buffalo State. And you know, I could go on forever, but just to mention, more than 175 students participated in our undergraduate research fair that we have every year. And I don't know if you know this, but we have twice been on the cover of the Undergraduate Research magazine in the last few years. That's a remarkable achievement that recognizes Buffalo State. During the 2011-12 year, more than 1,600 Buffalo State students participated in service learning opportunities and contributed 38,000 hours of service to the community. A group of Buffalo State students traveled to Rwanda for a study trip and as part of the Anne Frank project, and now they're traveling to New York City to do that performance in the city. I could go on and on about awards and recognitions for our students, but I don't think I will, or we'd be here all afternoon. I have to tell you, I personally feel, I really do feel an exciting sense of momentum here at Buffalo State. And I think that we need to go forward and build on these achievements. So the key message today is opportunity, optimism, and forward momentum. We're prepared not only to continue to thrive as a vibrant institution, but to take Buffalo State to the next level of excellence and seize on all the opportunities that are presented to us. So, as I was thinking about the way forward, I sat down and I came up with a list of 10 topics to talk to you about today. And then I said, if we do that, we'll be here all afternoon, at least. So I figured I'd mention 6 briefly, and I spent a little more time on 4. So let me tell you about the 6. First, our Middle States Review is incredibly important, and we're deeply involved with that. We'll keep you up to date through the President's letter and other mechanisms. Second, we'll make a serious commitment to sustainability and energy use and the reduction of our carbon footprint. Third, we've established a campus beautification committee, and we want to do something serious about that. We're going to take some serious looks at some academic program opportunities and try to position Buffalo State for the future. Fifth, we're going to focus on image and reputation. Sixth, along with the Year of the City, we're going to recommit ourselves to our focus on economic and community development. That's 6. Did I get them all? Were you counting? Good. Okay. The 4 that I want to talk a little bit today about are student success, my favorite topic, parking, slightly behind parking, our academic core, and our historic comprehensive fundraising campaign. And let me start with student success. I don't think I need to tell anyone in this room that our first commitment here at Buffalo State is to student success. The first order of business at Buffalo State is the quality of the education our students receive. Learning. Now, I want to take a couple of minutes to tell you what I mean about that. Some of you may recall, again, from my inaugural address, that I talked a little bit about Frans de Waal's studies of chimpanzees and the experiences of the students that he had in his research projects. And I said at that time that de Waal writes about his students, and he says when they first come in to participate in the research and they do the observation of the chimps' behavior just seems random and chaotic. Just, you've seen chimps. They're just running all over the place. But after a period of time, after a period of intense study, the students begin to see patterns, and they start to see the chimpanzee behavior as complex and purposeful. And similar ideas are found in one of my favorite books, personally, Sir Thomas Kuhn's famous book, Structure of Scientific Revolutions, which was written about 50 years ago this year. Kuhn focused in that book on what he called paradigm shifts, major transformations in the big ideas of science. But at some point in the book, he begins to talk about learning as an analogy to these paradigm shifts. And he uses a couple of examples. He says that when a student looks at a contour map, he or she sees lines on paper. But when a cartographer looks at that map, he or she sees a picture of terrain. Kuhn says that when a student looks at a photograph of a bubble chamber, the student sees lines and confused lines. But the physicist sees a record of familiar subnuclear events. And he tells us, and I quote, "Only after a number of such transformations of vision does the student become an inhabitant of the scientist's world, seeing what the scientist sees and responding as the scientist does." And he concludes that such transformations are irreversible. What I think he's saying is that the scientist's mind is seeing the world differently than the student's. And I like to think that that transformation is what I like to call deep learning. And let me give you a personal example. Many years ago, my son Noah, you've heard me talk about both my sons before. My son Noah was an undergraduate, and he was at home one weekend, and he was working on a calculus problem, sitting there at the kitchen table, and he was struggling. He was sitting there for a while, and I wandered over, and I began to look over his shoulder and at the problem, and after a minute or two, I said, "Noah, have you thought about it this way?" He looked up to me a little strangely, and he said, "That's it." Truth of the matter is, I was more shocked than he was. I don't think I'd looked at a calculus problem in 25 years since I'd finished my math degree, and I really didn't have a conscious idea of what I was looking at in his assignment. But somehow, I think subconsciously, I had a sense, call it a vision, I had a sense of how to approve that problem, how to approach it. Now, either that or I was just damn lucky. But I believe the same things happens in history, in the social sciences, in literature, in art, in music, once you're a great teacher, and so on. I think that as we learn deeply, we change the contours of our minds. And I think when a social scientist or historian looks at a social or historical situation, they see it differently than somebody who is a novice or not trained in the field. I want to tell you that I think it goes beyond just the training in that field. Einstein is reputed to have said the following, quote, "If I were not a physicist, I would probably be a musician, because I often think in music. I live my daydreams in music." And he further said, "The theory of relativity occurred to me by intuition, and music is the driving force behind this intuition. My parents had me study the violin from the time I was 6. My new discovery is the result of musical perception." Wow. So the other night, I was at the Philharmonic, and I closed my eyes and I said, because I'd just written that day, I pulled that quote out, and this last Saturday, and I said, "This is really hard." What was he thinking? What did he mean? So I've got to go to the Philharmonic more often to really practice. And then I realized that this is all well and good, but my favorite music is Bob Dylan, so I think I'm in real trouble. I don't know what that would help me think about, but I don't think I'll go there. Anyway, I just want to double down on the fact that I believe that real learning, deep learning, is a transformation of how one sees the world. It's the ability to discern patterns from what looks at first like chaos, to understand that there is a complexity in what at first seems simple. Now, a few folks get it without an extensive formal education. Albert Einstein is one of them. Steve Jobs is another. But for the 99.999% of the rest of us, we need a lot of help along the way. And I think that this cognitive transformation is in some sense our real goal in educating students. But this kind of success is really hard to measure. It might not even be an immediate outcome. It's difficult to measure the development of insight, creativity, and imagination. And that may be why American students have always lagged behind in the international test scores on standardized scores, but we've always led the world in innovation. While it's tough to measure these qualities, which I think are most important, we do know and we can measure certain things like whether or not students persist at our institution. Whether a capable student drops out during their first semester or their third, we won't have an opportunity to help them become all they can be. And so student success is about quality, and it's also about keeping our students around. And that latter is something that is readily measurable and something that we can focus on as an institution. Much of the quality stuff is focused on in the classrooms, in our tutoring, in our laboratories, and our student experiences. It may be a matter of pedagogy. But as an institution, we can focus on retention, progression to graduation, etc. Now, over the years, we've taken up many, many programs to support student retention, persistence, and graduation. And it's critical that we identify those that are being successful and we provide the additional support that they need to help us keep our students at Buffalo State. But more importantly, and I truly believe this, that it's the serious commitment of all of our faculty and all of our staff to Buffalo State's student-centered philosophy. Let me even frame it differently. It's really a culture of caring, a culture in which helping students to resolve problems is always first and foremost in our minds, a culture in which the goal is always to find for each other and for our students solutions. There's already a culture of caring at Buffalo State. I saw it and I heard it when I came here to interview 2.5 years ago. If I didn't see it and hear it, I might not be here today. It seems a natural part of a campus in the middle of the city of good neighbors. I see it on campus daily. But I want to take it to new heights. I'd like those of you who are here today to spread the word to each and every individual and each and every unit on campus that we should examine how they can become more student-centered, how they can set a problem-solving tone, how they can reinforce a culture of caring at Buffalo State. I'd like to see an examination of policies to assure that they're rational, justifiable, and student-focused. And I want to be sure that our policies always have enough flexibility to accommodate unusual circumstances. Let's embrace and sustain a student-centered environment and a culture of caring at Buffalo State. Thank you. Every so often since I've come to Buffalo State, I've invited 15 or 20 students up to my conference room for a casual lunch and conversation. And it's really been one of my great pleasures to do that. And most of the time I begin by asking them to tell me about 3 or 4 things they really like about Buffalo State, and you would all be so proud. They tell me they love the professors. They love their classes. They love the help they get from student affairs. They really have a lot of good things to say. I'm just always proud and pleased. And then I ask them, what is it they think we could do better? What is it we might improve? I don't ask them, what do we do wrong? I say, what could we do better? What could we improve? And every single time, without exception, the answer I get is parking. Well, and of course, parking's tough for our faculty and staff, too. We are in the middle of a city. Now, I've worked or studied at 8 universities. And I can tell you, there is probably not a one without a parking problem. My last campus had 1,600 acres, and we had parking problems. You know, if it's not really close, it's too far. And if it's easy to park out there, it's hard to get over here. I mean, so I hear this from the students, and then I said, let me ask around. So I asked some of our folks, old folks like me. And I asked them, I said, what about this problem? And they said to me, well, there's plenty of parking out in the M lot. And it's just not convenient. And, the students should be okay from walking from the M lot. After all, when I was a student, I had to walk 5 miles uphill both ways. That's easy for them to say. Like, yeah, I'm going to go buy a TV without a remote control, right? I could say, my parents didn't have a remote control. And I was thinking about that, by the way. They did. It was called Aaron, change the channel. So, it's only 5 feet to the television. We don't want to get up and change the remote control, but we expect students to walk, And there are times that students don't want to walk out there. And even if they do park out there, it's a challenge. So people cruise around looking for closer parking. Or they sit with their motor running, waiting for a spot to open up. And that's frankly not good for the environment. I mean, I haven't done the study, but I suspect some people spend more time cruising than they spend driving to campus. But it's true that there are lots of spots out in the M lot. We've done that study, except for the first day of class or so. There's always spots. But let's face it, people don't know they're there. If they park there, we don't have a convenient way to get them back to all the parts of campus. And if you are at a bus stop, you don't know when the bus is going to show up, so you might be worried about getting to class late on time. Late on time? To get to class late and not on time. So I was thinking, when I was living in Missouri, I used to drive to the Kansas City airport. And there was a big sign at the entrance to the airport. And on the sign, the parking lots were listed. And it told you how many empty spots in each lot. So that makes it nice. There are companies that have systems that can put that data on a sign. And it's real time. How many cars? You just got to measure cars in and out. This is not rocket science. But they can also put it on a phone app. They can also put it on a website. I want to do that for our big lots and discourage people from cruising around the campus looking for a parking spot. But because, first of all, there are a lot of car-person interactions, which is not good. And why cruise around for how long looking for a spot? But let's keep going for a minute. There are apps that will tell you when the next bus is arriving at a bus stop. You've all seen it with trains. And I was talking to my son about this, my same son, and he said, well, we have next bus in Boulder. Every bus stop tells you when the next bus is coming. There's a little sign there. They just put a GPS on the bus. You know when the next bus will be here in 3 minutes. So you're not nervous. I went online, Nova Southeastern. If you go to their website, Next bus shows the estimated time of arrival at any bus stop you pick out. It shows you the next three times that the buses will arrive. Estimates. They just have a GPS on the bus and it communicates. So they can put on your phone an app that says, this is the closest bus stop and here's when the bus is coming. Duh. I mean, this doesn't sound like rocket science. Okay, so now you drive to campus. It says there are 150 lots in the M lot. You drive out there, it says the bus will come in 2 minutes, and it takes you around. But what kind of bus do we? We don't want to stink up the campus with a bunch of these smelly old buses, like our colleagues. I'm sorry. But we can get 8, 12, or 14 passenger electric buses pretty cheap. And I know at least one company, they go 50 miles on a charge, and you know, if you could do the calculations on electricity, it probably costs about a penny a mile. So, I mean, these are regular buses. They carry 14 passengers. They're set up to be buses. So we can have that system, I think, that will hopefully resolve some part of the parking problem. Now, there are no doubt other ways to get to and from campus. People can walk. We should encourage that. They can take bikes. They can use public transportation. And they can carpool. And we want to encourage all those things. And Buffalo State has signed up with the Buffalo Car Share Program, which will give people on campus another way to get off campus when they need it. Now, I would just like parking, if we can do it, to be as easy and stress-free as possible. I'd like to use technology, since it can be used, to make that a reality. I would like to reduce the carbon footprint by not having people driving around cruising for parking spaces or sitting with their engines running. So I think we can reduce the carbon footprint. We can make things more convenient. And we're going to give that a try. I've asked some folks to take a look at that, to look at all these different options. There are other options. There are other issues. We'll deal with them as they come up. But the technology is now available to us to get this done. And I think it's time to get moving. What do you think? I'd like to see it done by this time next year. Well, let's go from parking to something a little less critical. Our institution's core. Now, I know you're waiting with bated breaths, but I'm going to take a drink of water. I believe that a university's greatest asset is its people. And central to everything we do at Buffalo State is a strong complement of full-time faculty who teach, advise, mentor, and nurture our undergraduate and graduate students, who help them conduct research, help them with all sorts of creative acts. They do their own research, and they publish, and they do artistic theater and arts works. And here we are in the House of Art in the Burchfield Penney. We know all these wonderful things that our faculty do. 2011 to 2012 shows that we have 403 full-time faculty. You have to go back to 1997, that's 15 years ago if my math is correct, to find that at that time we had 433 full-time faculty. In between, in 2001, we had as few as 376 full-time faculty. So if you look at the graph over 20 years of number of full-time faculty, it kind of wiggles around as high as 433, as low as 376, and last year we were at 403. It's time to take that trend seriously. And I'm pleased to tell you that we have set a goal of returning to 433 full-time faculty, a net of 30 new full-time faculty over the next 3 years. We will try to do this with a minimum of 10 per year. Now, the initiative will enhance our already outstanding educational quality, which is provided by our current faculty. It should enable us to reduce reliance on part-time faculty to a more appropriate balance. And when I say that with thought in mind that part-time faculty are good contributors to our educational programs. We have to be careful not to devalue the efforts of our part-time faculty in thinking that all that's important is full-time faculty, because they do make a contribution. And there should be for us an eventual target of 70 to 75% of our student credit hours taught by full-time faculty because of the other things they do as well as in the classroom. So we will do that. For now, we're going to go with 433 as a target, and we've already seen a net increase this year of 13, so we will be at 416 full-time faculty, and that's thanks to the diligence of our provost, Dennis Ponton. If we do that, we may be able to near our 3-year goal in 2 years, and I would love to do that. And then we'll need to take a look at our student credit hours, how they work out, and reestablish a new goal. But this is our tentative goal. Now let me end with this. We're about to launch tomorrow Buffalo State's first ever capital campaign, a comprehensive capital campaign entitled Transforming Lives, a campaign for Buffalo State. As you all know, philanthropy is becoming more and more important for public universities. Private dollars can support scholarships, critical equipment needs, endowed professorships, and on and on. As states reduce their support for public institutions, we become more privatized, and so we must act in some ways like those private colleges. And Buffalo State is no exception. A successful campaign can make the margin of difference from good to great. And as we embark on moving ahead on this ambitious, transformative campaign, we're focusing on 5 priorities. First, student scholarships. Second, enhancing the student experience. Third, enhancing the campus. Fourth, excellence in faculty teaching, research, and service. And fifth, we're calling the Fund for Buffalo State. We have been in what's called the silent phase, or the leadership phase of the campaign. Tomorrow is the public launch at 4 o'clock across the street, short program, long celebration. We have a great story to tell about our success in this silent phase. But I'm not going to tell you right now. I'd like you to join me and the faculty and staff that have been working on this campaign, the council members, the foundation board members, the advancement team. I'd like you to join us and be part of the historic public launch of Transforming Lives, a campaign for Buffalo State. It takes place tomorrow, as I said, at 4 o'clock in the Performing Arts Center at Rockwell Hall. There'll be a short program. After that, we'll adjourn to the tent for libations. So I'm looking forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for your attention today. And 3 cheers for Buffalo State.